Okay. Let's just go quickly through a number of researches, papers that from previous students. Also, I have some examples from students from other conservatoria, so we can look a little bit about what they do, just to get an idea of what these things look like. This is Hector Hervas Veredas, study and transcription of the collection of Canciones Españolas Antiguas by Federico Garcia Lorca for violoncello and piano, and its relation with my inspiration as an artist and cellist. So, these are from older times, so like certain things like the teacher and mentor are not here. So I'm updating some of the requirements, but there's still a lot of things. Here we have the abstract. Ooh. So it's a little bit long, but here we have the keywords.
What can I see these keywords?
Can you zoom in?
Lorca, cello, transcription, flamenco. Yeah, we're not going to look so much. We're not going to read these researches. We're just going to give it a little bit of overview.
Yeah.
So you see what they look like.
Could you zoom up one plus? Nice.
Here we have the table of contents. You can see it's you have like 1 and then 1.1, 1.2, 3, 4. So it's kind of bulleted, which is nicely done. And here we have an index of images, also possible, often seen. Introduction, then we have all this. Look here, here we have some footnotes already. Picture of the book. Here's a link to something, right, in the footnotes. You know, here we have a map of migration, gypsy migration routes, which I guess is relevant. So a lot of information. You know, you can see the way it's kind of integrated together: text and images and links. Okay, so here we have a kind of analysis of the number of bars per section. And then we get a bunch of scores, right? And lyrics. What was that? Metrical analysis, harmonic analysis, so different analysis and stuff. So this one has a bunch of scores. Let's just skip back, skip down. Translation of my research into my own interpretation and inspiration through these pieces. So, and then we have some videos. Okay, here we have, what is this? Must be the conclusion, right? Conclusions. And then bibliography, so the references. What else do we have? Scores of full collection. Right, so then we have a bunch of more scores. I think it's just, that's basically it. And then we get some lyrics and stuff. So that's the interesting thing about the appendix. Then it's a little bit of an archive of relevant information. What is there a bird or something? What is that?
Your table.
It's at the table. Oh, weird. Okay. Let's go to another one. Frances Tay. Do you guys know her?
Yeah.
Violinist. So this is a research she did in Amsterdam before she came here. So Italian solo violin music of the early 17th century and rhetorical delivery, lessons from Cicero and Quintilian in maximizing effect. How can the major treatises by these classical Roman orators inform and inspire my interpretation of selected solo violin works by Biagio Marini? So really nice research question. This is also a really nice research. Here she's got her name and her advisor. And then here's a non-plagiarism statement. Some people do that. We haven't made that required, but we could do it, or you can put it in.
What's that?
It's to say that you didn't copy anybody else's texts. So plagiarism. So if you take something out of a book and you put it in there as if you wrote it, that's not good. These days, a lot of famous politicians, they're losing their jobs because they plagiarized when they were a master's student or stuff like that. Sometimes those stories happen. So,
I thought this is in movie.
what?
I thought this is a movie like
Yeah.
drama, but actually they
No,
in the
it's a real life thing. Exactly. Reality is stranger than fiction. So here's the abstract table of contents. She also has a list of figures. She also has video examples, forward. Sometimes people also put this, acknowledgements. You can get in there and thank your teachers or collaborators or your research coach, what a great advice you got. And then introduction.
How did she call that?
Acknowledgements. Yeah. So anyway, she did a really good data collection. So you can see a lot of notes where she's analyzing information and building her argument. So this was also big research. In a way, this was a dual research. Part of it was musicology, and part of it was artistic research. As we go down, it's a little slow, this, right? So then she has like video examples. Right, so this is the way she's integrated examples where she shows what she did. So she talks about it and plays the video, then you can hear it. It's a really nice way to do this. Sometimes a score, Western version. She has, look, here we have a score which has been annotated. So she talks about where the irregular patterns are, hesitant, playful, some kind of moving forward thing, tirata, whatever that is, I don't know. So you can see the way these things are just integrated. This idea of annotating scores, it's really helpful, and it's really important that you explain what your marks mean and how it works, because it's a really great way to be able to show some things. Another option for annotating scores would be to annotate videos. Could be that you have a performance, like a solo, and you have all kinds of different things going on in the solo, and you could then put subtitles to your solo. Here I'm thinking about the story, here I'm doing interval jumps, and here I'm using notes outside the scale. So you could have a live performance of you doing it and then annotate the video. That technique works great to demonstrate what your results are. Okay, let's just have a look. This was a big research. I'm not expecting you guys to do this kind of big research that she did. Here we have the bibliography. alphabetical order. Yeah, it was a lot of sources. And then we have the appendixes, where she's here. We got some scores, other scores. Okay, and that's it. All right. Let's look at Mace. So this is a student from here who graduated last year, and this was his thesis. So he starts out with a picture, a research on freedom in performance, embodiment, and a curation of tools for improvisation. Then we have some information. Here's the summary, some keywords, a table of contents. Hey, welcome.
Thank you.
And so let's have a look here. We have summary, table of contents, introduction, methodology, and then he divides it into parts. Part 1, explaining improvisation. 2, the curation of tools. Part 3, the experimentation process and findings. So, according to his research, it seemed to be logical to break it up into 3 main chapters. So he talks about his methodology, all the methods he did: reading, conversing, moving, playing, listening, experiencing, reflecting, observing, relating, and so forth. So, and then he made these kind of drawings, really, which is a kind of, this is a little bit of a mind map of like all the different facets that are related to his research. Kind of put it all together. And then we have some quotes. Here we have some music. And also this is also a score about form and how the piece progresses, and so forth. So here we have some more drawings. So he made a graph of minimalist, maximalist, composition, improvisation, and then I don't know, this has to do with either pieces or approaches that he did for his research, and they fit in different places on this map. So, and then we get some other examples. Recordings, and here we are, the references, films, discographies, appendixes. Then we have, he did a lot of analyses, which finally were not necessary for the research. So he put it in the appendixes. It was a little too overwritten, so he ended up putting some stuff. And for the final thing, he printed it out because his girlfriend is a printmaker. So here's the whole thesis as a book. So I'm expecting all of you to do this. Yeah. So otherwise you fail immediately. So
You arrange girlfriends?
Maybe you can ask her to do it, and she can make a business out of it. But anyway, you see. So anyway, he turned it into a paper thing. I think he printed out 6 of these or something. And but what a nice product then to have. Okay, let's move on. Here's one from Rotterdam. Let's see what this one. So this was a classical singer who was also a really good pianist. So she did her research on accompanying herself with art songs.
Art songs?
Like classical art songs, romantic German art song. How and to what extent can accompanying myself on the piano while singing Lieder help me to broaden my artistic insight into the repertoire, thereby enhancing my interpretation of the composition and extending my expressive possibilities in its performance? So she, here we have the acknowledgements. Here's a plagiarism thing. Table of contents. References. Here's the appendixes. The abstract, right? So it's all kind of, you kind of already see, it's already the same structure for all of these. Here's the motivation, contextualization, research question. This is interesting. The specific audiences and readers addressed. So this could also, anyway, it's important for you to have an idea of who you're writing for, and because that helps you get the tone correct. It helps you take decisions on what information to put in and not. And then, so for example, here are the results. So, really good singer and really good pianist, so really trying to bring both sides to a really high artistic level and try to explore what kind of new meanings can come out of that, challenges and stuff. Let's see. Okay, like here's an example of some annotated scores. You can see all kinds of information about what means what and what she would do. In this case, it probably had to do with pacing and speed and some expressive things. I want to see if we can find, oh yeah. Or maybe it's at the end of the second cycle. She did a really nice, oh yeah. So here she does a bunch of experiments. Like I think she did an experiment where she just played the piano and didn't sing, and then she just sang and didn't play piano, and then she did an experiment where she didn't do either of them. She did a really interesting series of experiments. Oh yeah, in this experiment I play and sang entirely mentally. Oh, what? Where is it?
Oh.
Maybe she took it out. That was my favorite one.
Wow.
Anyway.
Maybe it's still on the list of the others? No.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to check that out. But in any case, but you can see how the process was shown through these videos, and that works really well. Metacognitive strategies and violin performance practice. Oh, this is in Tilburg. So we have a title, we have a picture, we have a title, table of contents, abstract, right? Introduction. And then here she's talking about her tools, interviews, literature, defined terminologies. This talks about how she did it. Here we've got some journal entries of her practice journals.
Is there a research question written somewhere?
Yeah, that's where is the research? It must be up top. I haven't read this, so I don't. This study shows how metacognition can be used in classical violin performance. The goal, develop specific metacognitive strategies. In which ways might metacognitive strategies be used to improve violin practice? Of course, we're all asking ourselves, what does metacognitive mean? And I'm assuming she answers that very clearly, but we're not going to jump into that now. Let's just look at the bottom, right? So, but you can see the way she integrated. Here we have some tables. All of these things may be relevant for you guys. We have a practice section. Okay, let's check out the metacognitive approach here. Okay, well, that's not so interesting. Yeah, it's hard to know what's going on there without reading the paper. Okay, this seems like some reflections on what to do, so that's interesting. So, before the video experiments, I gave myself 3 out of 5, and after video experiments, I gave myself 5. So here you can see her talking and telling the story, like what she did. So this is the way we can write about artistic research. Just talk about what you did. It's really a story.
Reflective.
What?
The reflective.
Yeah. Reflective and specific. So if we go down, let's see what we get. Right, so here we have in the appendix, I guess we have a list of all these different tables. Analysis of video recordings. So you can see a lot of the method here and how detailed it went, right? So, this is what you guys are doing too. You're also working very detailed. Lastly, let's look at Victor. This was also a student in Rotterdam, and classical violinist, but also a really good drawer. So what he did is he took this second violin sonata by Isai, and he made a story for it. And then what he did is let's see here, where it is. So first he did is he was looking at the relationship between visuals and music. So he read some books, some theory about that. He also looked at like storytelling theory. So like he did a musical analysis, related it to some concepts of obsession, and here we have an analysis of the piece related to that concept, melancholia, and maybe those are the movements, and then this is some analysis of audio-vision sound on screen by Michael Shion. It's a book he read, and then so that was the kind of data collection theory which he read, which was relevant for him. And then he wrote his story, and then he drew these pictures. So the story is in a Japanese village, so he drew that. And then the soldiers come for attacking. And here's a little boy playing with the butterfly origami, and then him running away. So you get these kind of scenes, right? And because he's a really nice drawer, he could draw them really nice. And then, here's the burning village. And so forth. So then eventually what he did is he then looked at what those drawings and the story he had written, how that changed the way he played. And it changed his articulation, it changed his dynamics, it changed the speed. So through this creative reinterpretation through story and drawing, he changed the way he played, and he could talk about that in specific details and put it on a score and annotate the score. So this is an example of how we can integrate creativity and interdisciplinarity into our practice. And that, in the end, it comes down to exactly the way we play our instruments, which is a list of parameters and techniques, which you can then quantify more or less, or qualify, and then describe that. And we can hear it, we can see it, we can understand it, and we can see the connection, and we see how it all works. And then it makes for a really nice research. Okay, so we can leave it for now. Oh, actually, Maria's is really nice for all the pictures you can see. So Maria, she just graduated. She did it was really nice research because it was very archival about a family which lived in Amsterdam, and a piece. You are in this videos, and so she did a lot of archival research about this family. Came in here, and she also had a piece which was written, and then she kind of wove that all together, the story of the family and the composer, and also the interpretation of the piece. And so, we get a lot of images. There's a dedication to the victims of Inquisition, right? So this is something she felt she wanted to do, so she put it in there. So it's really nice. Here's the acknowledgements. Here's the abstract. Keywords. Introduction, research question. Oh, and it's got my comments, so I guess this is my version. Anyway, so so you can see all that. I will leave it for there. Okay, is this helpful?
Yeah.
Is it inspiring? Is it scary?
No.
What?
Yes.
Yes. Because now you think, oh God, I have a lot to do, right? Yeah. Some of them are really long, and some of them are not that long. So it doesn't...
What counts as words from the research and what doesn't count as words from the research?
The appendixes don't count.
If you put, like, for example, a girl put some notes, those notes like are images, but they have words that count on the...
Oh, well, no. I mean, basically we say around 9,000 words, maximum 9,000. So, 500 more or less is, we're not looking on that kind of detail. So it's just more or less to give you an idea of how long. But if you have 20 pages of handwritten text as pictures, then anyway, that would be weird. But yeah, then probably you should change it into normal text, and then it would be counted. So the thing of it is, when you guys do your research and you document it and you write about it, then you easily take this amount of words. So it may look like these are big jobs, but once you go through this content, right? Where's my thing? Oh, right. We put all these in there. You guys can already start working. It's maybe relevant for some of you already to make your table of contents.
Yep.
How are you going to structure it? What are the main topics? What are the main chapters you're going to talk about? Write your table of contents now, and then make an annotated table of contents where you write what the chapter is going to be, and you write what's going to be in it. And you can already put your introduction from your research proposal. You already have a bunch of references. So ideally what you do is you take your research proposal and then you give it a new name. You say, paper or thesis, and then start filling it out. Or maybe you have a separate document for each section for now, and eventually you put it all together. This kind of organization. But that method of like making the table of contents really works well to help you structure your time. And essentially it's going to come down to that, is being organized with what you need to do, making a to-do list, and then getting it done. And on that to-do list, there's 100 things. Some of them are really easy, and some of them are really hard, and some of them are in between. So if you have a detailed to-do list of these tasks, which are different in difficulty, then you say, okay, I'm going to work on my research now for an hour. And then you look at your list and you see which ones you feel like doing. And maybe it's just taking some pictures and resizing them to the page. And maybe you're like, no, I want to deal with how I'm, integrating the vibrato or something, Then you really want to go into something detailed. And then you do it. So this is the way when I have to work on these things, and these big, difficult, multifaceted projects, like composing a piece or making a research, is I break it up into a bunch of little to-do lists, and I pay attention to what my energy and my mood is at any moment, and then I see what is the right thing that fits, and then I do some of those. And often, sometimes I'll start with resizing the photos, and then that gets my mind woken up, and then I'll jump into the hard questions. Yeah, but sometimes it's not. It's like, I just have enough energy to resize the photos, but then at the end of the day, I can cross that one off my list. And sometimes, if it wasn't on my list at the end of the day, I'll write it on the list and then cross it off right away, just to give me that feeling of achievement. So, and if I've done, a good couple hours of work on something, then I have the reward of watching some TV show at night or something, So I'm always playing these kinds of games with myself, of putting the carrot in front of me, writing down, okay, 20 minutes this or 40 minutes that, turning on the timer, and then doing it. That really works well for me to, to get things done, and sometimes it really works well to fire up the inspiration, right? Like sometimes you think, I can only work on this when I'm totally inspired, and then it never happens. But when you start with the easy things, sometimes you work your way into that inspired moment. So there seems to be some kind of warming up mechanism, which probably makes sense. It's a metacognitive thing, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Any questions or comments about any of that? Shall we talk writing tips?
Sure.
Okay. Just write. Notes, ideas, connections. Writing is a creative process, and everything is potential material for later. So, every person in here has a different facility with writing. Some of you are like really well writers and poets, and some of you might be really difficult, and you're writing in a foreign language which you don't know very well. That can be with everyone has that kind of thing. So you do need to find a way to get the thoughts flowing. If English is not easy for you, I'm all for writing in your native language and then translating it.
ChatGPT is really good at that, right?
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know for myself, I can write okay in Dutch, and I write a lot of Dutch, but if I have to write an artistic text, I will write it in my best language
Yeah.
and then translate it, because then I've made my best expression, and then it's, you know, you can use these tools, and maybe it needs a little correcting, but that works really well. So everyone has to figure that out. Those who are Dutch, if you want to write in Dutch, you're welcome to write in Dutch.
And change it back into English, right?
Change it in English or leave it in Dutch, whatever.
But it needs to be in English, right?
No.
Oh,
Can also be in Dutch.
your whole paper can be in Dutch.
You can write in Dutch, yeah.
That's a privilege.
Ik lees Nederlands. So, yeah, that's possible. Unfortunately, we don't read Chinese, so you guys have to figure it out. But you live in a country where we talk in English or Dutch, so it's anyway good for you. But if it's more helpful, or in Spanish or whatever, or Syrian, you know, you guys have to, you know best, whatever works for you. Okay. Sorry about that first point. Before I talk about table of contents, which I already talked about, this sometimes, you know, right now I gave you a big structure and I tell you should do this and this and this, but sometimes you still don't even know what it's going to be, and then the free writing can be a really nice exercise. So I do a lot of talking to my voice memo on the phone, where I'm just, the thoughts are flowing, I have some clarity and some idea, and I speak it in there. This summer I spent like 3 weeks transcribing 600 voice memos. That was some online thing, and then going through and figuring out what was good, and then putting that into my thesis. So there's a process where you're constantly documenting your thoughts, your research, your ideas, and all that. But the better you can organize that, give it dates, give it titles, all that thing, and then when you go to the writing process, basically, and this is what I'm having to do, is I'm sorting through all of the information I've collected or thought or said or wrote, which is spread over, 50 different documents. And now I'm going through and cutting out all the trash and taking the good stuff and putting it in my paper. So there's that collection phase, this data collection, which is not only information outside, but information from you. And then there's the putting it into your thesis. And what I'm realizing is actually I don't have to write or even think of so much new stuff. I've already thought of it all. I just need to organize it. So when you get to this moment when you start to write, a lot of it's just organization of ideas. It's not, you don't need to be a genius and have deep thoughts. You just need to put it in the right order and make it flow. So that's a sort of craftsmanship thing instead of a real deep artistic thing. So sometimes just the free writing, just start writing, start talking, and then go back and choose the good stuff. We talked about this table of contents, that can really help structure. With longer texts or chapters, you can start with keywords in order to get the bigger picture before getting lost in details. So sometimes you might want to map out what are the concepts and the tools and the things you want to have in this chapter, and just do it as bullet points. And then go back and fill in all the details and then put it into texts. So don't start by writing the first perfect sentence. Just start writing. And of course, keep the research question in mind the whole time, because that helps you focus your writing. Did you have a question?
Well, I make notes, but they are chronological, so in the order that I wrote them, and those are like notes, and that is sort of the basis of what you said, dictaphone, recording stuff, and that you need to reorganize all into wherever it needs to be, right?
Yeah, well, that's a question for you.
Yeah.
You have two choices, basically.
Yeah.
You can tell your story chronologically,
Mm-hmm.
or you can talk about it thematically.
Yeah.
And if you have, over the last 5 months, you've had moments where you talk about this and that, and A,
Right.
B, and C, you may want to bring all the A's together and all the B's together and the C's together.
Yeah.
You have to, that's something you have to decide. What is the best way to tell a story?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's thematically is best, and sometimes you just need to start at the beginning.
Yeah, I heard chronologically is most of the times not the order in the way to order it,
Yeah.
and it's the easy way to make notes, right? Is that?
Well, it's no, it's because that's the way it happened.
Yeah,
So you have it like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
take away the that's a tip that I got from someone. Like, take away the chronological order and make it your own order of the point you're making.
Well, I did that in this one chapter. I have 3 different pieces which use this polytempo, and one is about choosing the tempo, one is about where to put the musicians, and the other one was about practice strategies. And each of the pieces had those themes, but I grouped it into choosing the tempo, practice strategies, and placement, instead of first piece, we did this placement and this tempo. Second piece, we did this placement and that tempo, because then you lose the thread.
Right.
Yeah.
Good tip.
Okay. Any other questions about the writing? Okay. Introducing the introduction. You need to, this is maybe a repeat of a lot of stuff we already said, but I'll just I'll put it in here. You need to start the introduction with a general background your readership needs in order to understand what the subject and its specificity is, and in order to enable or empower your readers to actually follow you, right? So that's the general context. How general you start depends on your intended readership. We talked about that. Who you're writing for, have them in mind. In our contexts, useful to assume that readers are familiar with musical terminology and a general knowledge of the different musical fields, such as knowing the general differences between classical, romantic performance practice, jazz improvisation period, right? So practice pop grooves, band culture, I mean, I already mentioned this, but this basic stuff. We're assuming that people know that things. So it's unlikely the baker is going to be reading your research paper anyway, so you don't need to explain things on his level. At the moment when you start introducing your specific topic and research question, you have to make sure there is enough information for the reader to actually understand it. Yeah. Before you know it, you've written down a lot of specific information which your readers aren't ready for because you haven't given them enough background. Okay, so again, you need to tell that story, and you need to bring, like it starts broad and it goes narrow. So you have to take us down into that narrow approach. So giving us some background and then getting into the details. So if we're going to talk about whether your finger is this way or 2 millimeters to the left, because that's the essential new knowledge of your research, we need to know how you got there and why that is and how it works. You just don't jump right out with that because it's too obscure in a way. Okay. And then the last thing, which we already kind of did a little bit, looking at other writers, how do they start their introduction, what type of information is included in the introduction, in what order, and how do writers normally end the introduction. That's also interesting. So I know you guys have seen some researches, so you know how to go to the library, the online, all the previous theses are there in the online library, so you can go see it. So if you're unsure how to write your introduction or your abstract or how to do the keywords, you can look those things up, but you can also just go to the library and grab 4 or 5 different research papers and look what they did. You know, like we do when we're studying very specific topics with our research and our instruments and stuff. Okay. Any questions and discussions about that till now?